All right, now that you have tried these exercises, let's see the answers. So when you get ready for school or work in the morning, or maybe just you're getting ready for sitting around the house, maybe you're not wearing socks and shoes anymore these days, and you're thinking back to the days when you wore shoes. Anyways, so when you get home from school, work, and you want to take a shower, which do you do first? Take your socks off first or take your shoes off? You take your shoes off, right? And then you take your socks off. We're going to see that the same principle here applies to inverse functions. So, which of the following is 3x plus 2? You could check these, which works perfectly fine. If you don't know, you could do f of x over 3 minus 2. Or also do f of x minus 2 over 3 this way and see which one gives you x. And that's a perfectly good way to do it. But let's think of it this way. Let's think of it as x is your feet. Then what this function says to do is you're going to do one thing to x first and then something else. So the 3 times x is like putting on socks. The plus 2 is something you're doing after in the order of operations, because the order of operations is multiply first. So you put on socks first and then you put on shoes. So if you wanted to undo this and just get your feet without socks or shoes so you can take a shower, you would undo the shoes first. So which one of these says take off the shoes first? Well, if you do this one, this is taking your socks with shoes on them and dividing by 3 first, and then subtracting by 2. That's not what you want to do. You want to take off the shoes first. You want to do the x minus 2. So this one is the inverse. And you can check that here. That this will actually work. Or you could also do, if you want to think of it this way, h of f of x, let's check this, is going to be h of 3x plus 2. I want to do it in this direction because this direction makes more sense with the socks and shoes analogy. So what does h do? It says we're going to take this 3x plus 2 and we're going to take that, subtract 2, and divide by 3. So we have plus 2 minus 2. We end up with 3x over 3. And so the plus 2 minus 2 is taking off your shoes. Good. Then you have just feet with socks on them. We're taking off those socks and getting x. Yay. Now you can take a shower. All right. So let's look at exercise 5. If you're stuck on this one, my hint is to look at example 2 here. Because the way we got the inverse of this function is we took it and we solved the equation to turn the input variable, the t, into the output variable by getting that t by itself. So that's what you want to do here to get an inverse. You want to get a function that gives you this x. So I'll show you how to do that for the first one. You should definitely practice it yourself for at least 3 of these if you haven't done this one already. So I'm going to write this as y equals 6 minus 2x. We want to get x equals something with y in it. So if you subtract 6 from both sides, you'll get y minus 6. Actually, I'm just going to keep this in green the whole time. And then if you divide by negative 2 here, that will cancel out, and you'll get y minus 6 over negative 2 equals x. And this is basically the inverse function. You could also just write this as the same function with different symbols. You could write the y as x, right? X minus 6 over negative 2 equals g of x, and that would be just fine too. It's the same function. Whether you write it with y as the input or you write it as x, in either case, this says subtract 6 and divide by 2. All right, so then right here we have this p of n function, and I think it helps to think of this as y equals 2 times n minus 1. We're going to try to get n by itself, so divide both sides by 2. Add 1 to both sides. You're just going to get y divided by 2 plus 1 equals n. And you could just leave it like that, or you could write it as as x over 2 plus 1 equals g of x. It's the same function, just with different letters. Okay, so let's think about the socks and shoes really quick. With this one, the adding 1 is like putting on the socks, because you always do what's in parentheses first, and then you multiply by 2, that's like putting on your shoes. When you undo that, what do you want to do first? You need to divide by 2, just like we did when solving it. And then to undo the next thing, take your socks off, you have to add 1, and that leaves you with your bare feet. Okay, so let's check these ones. I'm going to write this as y equals 5t cubed minus 2. Y plus 2 equals 5t cubed. Next you want to divide by 5. So you can take a cube root of both sides to cancel that out. And you'll get t equals this whole thing. All right, f of x equals x minus 1 over x plus 1. Let's see. This is a tricky one. If you got stuck on this one, don't worry. So do most people. All right, so we got y equals x minus 1 over x plus 1. We need to solve this for x. First thing I would do is, if you don't like a fraction with x plus 1 in the bottom, multiply by that denominator. And that's going to give you yx plus y over here equals x minus 1. Now, we want to solve this for x. We need to just get x by itself. So, I'm going to subtract yx from both sides to get all the yx's on each side to cancel that out. And also add 1 to cancel out the minus 1 here. So that's going to leave you with y plus 1 equals x minus yx. And why did I want to have all the x's here? Well, because you can now factor out an x from this. You can write this as x times 1 minus y equals y plus 1. And once you have it written like this, you can just cancel out this multiplication with division. And this is now going to be the inverse of this function. You can write it like that, or you could write it as x plus 1 over 1 minus x equals g of x. That's okay too. It doesn't really matter what the letter is that you use. Okay, this was an extra tricky problem. If you got this one correct, then excellent. This should have been an extra credit problem. If this question shows up on a test, it'll probably be an extra credit problem. So anyways, that is the end of section 5.4. It's a kind of tricky section, so good work getting all the way through it. Hopefully I'll see you in office hours one of these days, and have a good day.